Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how the supply chain issues are impacting the automotive repair industry. Folks, for lack of a better word, things have been a little chaotic in the automotive repair world because of all the issues that we have, mainly with parts, but there are a few things that I want to cover in this video that you need to know so you're not taking advantage of, you're not caught off guard or caught by surprise by the current climate in the automotive repair world. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you are a returning subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's start with the snowball effect, because that's actually what caused the supply chain issues, at least in the automotive repair world. So the first thing is, during the pandemic, people were not buying cars. Of course, we're all afraid, future was uncertain, and cars were sitting on the dealer lots, which forced the factories to slow down. Slow down caused their suppliers to have a slowdown, and then the impact of the pandemic, they lost a lot of their employees. Some of their suppliers actually went out of business. That's how bad it was. But then, now that they're coming out of the pandemic, people are buying cars again. Everybody that was holding off now is buying a car. All of a sudden, the factories had to jump back production, but the suppliers could not keep up because they lost employees, some of them went out of business, and all this stuff. So now, people are buying new cars left and right. Well, the factories could not keep up with the demand. They had to slow down. Some factories actually shut down for a while, cut down their production, and all this good mess. Well, people had no choice in buying a new car anymore, so they moved on to the used car market. Well, that got strained because people are now not trading cars in to buy new ones, so the used car market was strained as well. So this is how the snowball is getting bigger and bigger. Then, people who could not get their hands on a new car, and they have an older car, well, they decided to just, let's keep it. Well, now, all of these people, these older cars that have issues, now you gotta fix them. So now you have another strain on the parts industry. And the parts industry is usually very strong, parts for older cars, but that got strained because it was not being supplied. Of course, when the supplier is making parts, between selling parts to a vendor or whatnot, or a manufacturer, of course they're going to prioritize the manufacturer, which they have a giant contract with. So now we have no parts as well, not as much. So now you can't even buy a new car, you can't buy a used car because they cost more than a new car, and sometimes they're not really that available. And now your older car, people are having issues with parts. However, the problem is not really that. The problem is how that's affecting you. What's going on with the industry? And this is what I want to cover in this video, starting with, let's start with the effects on parts. The first one is the original equipment manufacturer parts, the OEM parts, the original parts. So for the most part, the original parts have stayed similar pricing. They didn't hike, they didn't jump up in price, they stayed the same. So people kind of ran down the supplies of these parts, especially when you get into the older cars. Some parts are still available, but fast-moving parts are continuously going in and out of stock. And the problem with that is, some places are holding on to the parts. Now they don't vendor swap, they don't trade between dealers, they're holding on to their stuff because this is the last batch we have of this part. If we run out, we're done. It could be months before we get it. And that has happened. Brake parts, sometimes even oil filters. You don't see this in the background because dealers are very good about keeping good inventory of fast-moving parts, but it's actually happening in the background. And it's only a amount of time that it's going to catch up. And now you go to do the simplest maintenance on your car, well, they don't have it. But that caused people to, instead of you waiting for 2 weeks for a simple part, well, let's just go get it aftermarket. Now, aftermarket supply chain is a lot bigger than the OEM, believe it or not, but they were strained as well because they supply so much to so many vendors, not just the dealer network like the OEM. So now they're strained, but unlike the original parts that stayed the same price, we are noticing a significant hike in prices. A common example I recently ran into, 2004 Avalon. The original ball joints were not available. They were on back order. They cost right around $74 to $80, somewhere in that range. Go to the aftermarket world. It was $150 for the one that was in stock on the shelf. All the other ones that cost less, back order, not available, good luck. That's, you cannot, at least in Toyota land, maybe this might be different in other manufacturers, but in Toyota land, there's no part better than the original, at least in my book. Well, that's what's going on. So be careful when you go shop for parts, because things are all over the place, especially with aftermarket. You do not want to pay more for an aftermarket part than an original. So when you go shopping for parts aftermarket, the first thing you will do, obtain the original price, so you know, if we're paying more than this, this doesn't make sense. Now, if you're in a crunch and you have no choice, shop around, folks. A good supply of aftermarket parts. And this, by the way, the company I'm going to mention, they don't know who I am. They're not affiliated with me at all, but I use them a lot in these times because we have no choice. rockauto.com. It's another good source to, at least sometimes they'll not have the stuff in stock, but at least you'll know the price. So you're not being taken advantage of when you walk to a brick and mortar parts store and all of a sudden this part is very expensive. Guess what? The fluids are also affected by this, and affected significantly. I mean, usually repair shops will have oil in stock. They'll have giant tanks that have oil, so you won't feel it as much. However, the prices are on the rise, and there are points where your certain weights oil go out of stock. At Toyota line, for example, 0W20 bottled oil went out of stock, then came back. Then 0W16 went out of stock, came back. Now 530 is becoming a little hard to get as of the date of filming this video. So this is how it's affecting it. Maybe you will find them. You will go to like a Walmart, walk in a Walmart, oh, there's all kinds of oil. But if you really look close, the prices are going up. And this not only have to do with the supply chain, the prices of oil, crude oil, are also going up. And just like gasoline that hiked, oil prices are also hiking, because guess what? They're all connected. The other oil that doesn't seem to be as affected, or fluid, not just oil, is transmission fluid. It has stayed pretty steady price-wise, but again, this is not a high demand fluid. Not as much as engine oil, at least, and with many manufacturers going with a lifetime fluid. Don't fall for that one, by the way, but we'll leave that for another video. Coolant is not really that affected, although, and this is something in observation, some dealerships are starting to raise the price on coolant. I don't know if they're running out of stock. I don't see issues with stock, but also shop around. Even for fluids, you gotta shop around here between dealers, between aftermarket. Be careful in these times because the prices are rising, and sometimes you could catch a break where this place raised the price and this place didn't, and you could get a good deal. Another fluid that is going out of control, according to a conversation that I had with an oil supplier, is differential fluid or gear oil. The prices are rising daily, and as we get to the end of the month, they rise even more and more and more. For some reason, gear oil is becoming very expensive. Perhaps you will not see this when you're buying small quantities, but in large quantities, it's becoming a little too expensive. Before, gear oil used to be nothing. It was very cheap. Everybody could buy any quantity for dirt cheap. But now, you're getting to a point where gear oil is easily surpassing engine oil, which usually is not the case, but that is the case today. So that's another fluid you want to shop around for, and don't just go pay the first price you see. Compare prices, because they're really hiking in price here. So how is this affecting the dynamic of a shop? I'm a mechanic. I work at a Toyota dealership. How is this affecting the day-to-day operation? Well, here's what's going on. Cars come in, parts, not only availability, but sometimes shipping of parts. Let's say a part is not available in the local warehouse. It has to ship from somewhere else. Well, shipping is also compromised by the supply chain. There's no drivers, there's no trucks, and all this stuff. That's another problem. So cars are coming in and then staying, or the customer's taking the car, and sometimes we don't see this car again because people sometimes will not want to wait 2-3 months for a repair. Some parts are like that, and they end up going aftermarket. They end up finding something else. But on top of all that, here's the problem that we are really having that is becoming a big problem. Catalytic converters. Just like the supply chain issues, the precious metals that are in catalytic converters, they're going up in price, and there never seems to be a shortage of lowlifes that will go out and steal these catalytic converters. Folks, we're talking months. I remember we had a Tundra, sat for almost 8 months to get catalytic converters. Currently, my neighbors, just neighbor across the street, their Sequoia, 2008 Sequoia, has been sitting for almost 2 months waiting for catalytic converters, and there's not even an estimated time of arrival, nothing. They're on back order, there are thousands on back order, and we're just standing still. The car is sitting outside in the rain, rotors are getting rusty, the car is just, the battery is dying, and we just have to continuously start the car, start all the neighbors because there's no catalytic converters on that V8. It's just becoming a mess, and the service department does not know what to tell you. You call about something, we don't know when it's going to show up. Could be a week, could be a month, could be a year. No idea, because nobody can tell you when are these parts that are on back order are coming. Usually, you can get some kind of an ETA, but not these days. Even when they give you an ETA, it's extremely vague. It's within a week, a month, or a year of the actual time when the part will actually arrive. It's very messy, and that is actually creating a new problem. The automotive industry is hurting so bad, it is losing technicians left and right, because working on cars right now is very difficult. You get a car in, diagnose a problem or look at what it needs. Oh, guess what? Parts are not available. Parts are going to take this long, and you park it outside and move on. Well, you have all these projects sitting outside, and you're not getting anything done. And technicians, and at least at the dealership level, you don't get paid until the job is done. So you're basically not making anything on top of that. So a lot of technicians are flocking outside of the industry. There is a severe shortage of technicians. That has started for a while back, but nobody seems to talk about it. But today it's becoming a real problem. Such a problem that some places have gotten extremely crafty on how they try to recruit people. Recently I did an oil change on a Honda, and this was the sticker that I found on the oil filter. What a great place to advertise or solicit, we're hiring. Great place. It was pretty funny, but in reality it is not funny, because that dealership is probably very desperate to get any people to work in the service department. So what should you do? Folks, let's summarize a few things that I really want you to consider. It is really hard to do the right thing to your car, to make the right decision when it comes to cars these days. Because if you've had the same car for 20 years, it has a lot of miles, it's starting to kind of fall apart and tell you, yeah, it's time for a replacement. Well, that's not really an easy option these days. New cars are expensive, used cars are expensive. And I see people making these decisions to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to try to make their 20-year-old, 15-year-old car perfect. That is not a correct decision, because guess what? The second the supply chain issue ends, all that money that you invested in this car that now has appreciated plummets down to nothing, because it's still a 20-year-old car with a lot of miles. You need to focus with older cars, folks, on safety. That is the number one thing that should be high on your list. Anything that has to do with safety needs to be done, and needs to be done now. Everything else, you got a little oil leak here, a little coolant leak there. Don't be in a rush to do it. If you drive an old car, you can't expect to just start it and start driving and take it over long trips and whatnot. You need to put a little bit of care. You need to love this car so it lasts you until these hard times are over. And the next one applies in all times, but especially in these times. You gotta do your research. Whether you're doing your work on your car yourself, whether you're having somebody else work on it, do your research. People who don't work on their cars, they just seem to have a trusted mechanic. They just sign here and move on. That's it. You gotta look, because sometimes the mechanics get desperate and they improvise to get you back on the road. But did they run it by you though? You need to know everything that's happening with your car. And the biggest thing is, you gotta shop. If you're doing it yourself, or even if you're trying to get parts for your mechanic that told you I couldn't get them, do your research. I have a video dedicated to parts. I'll leave it in the description of this video. That helps you how to shop for parts. It is vital that you do this these days. Don't just buy parts that, you go to your local parts store, buy the part and be on your way. Shop around. If there is any time to shop around, it is now. And the biggest thing is that you need to be careful with parts. Availability is a problem, and some places, especially online places, oh yeah, we have it in stock, and then you order it and then you get that dreaded phone call, oh yeah, it's on back order, it'll be a couple months. Well, they just wasted your time, and now you gotta ask for a refund and all this mess. verify that the parts are actually in stock. And after that, more on the research part. If your car got to a point where you have no choice, you need another car, please don't overpay for new cars. Do not overpay over MSRP. And do not overpay for used cars. Two things I'll list real quick and we'll wrap up this video. Yes, there are dealers that are still selling at MSRP. Yes, you will have to wait for the car to arrive, so you need to account for that. The average wait time is anywhere from 6 to 9 months on very easily available models, and in some models 12 to 18 months until you get your new car. And used cars, it is very easy to find a 2-3-year-old car that costs more than the same model brand new, because supply and demand. Don't do that, because that is a very bad financial idea. I'm a mechanic, I don't give financial advice, but just think of the depreciation, because this situation is not going to last forever. The second this supply chain issues are done and the shortages are done, cars are available, prices will go down. But guess what? The giant loan you took for your car is not going down. All of a sudden, you're upside down on this car, and it is the worst thing that you could do to your finances is be upside down on a car. Usually people, when they buy cars at the right price, they're upside down for a little bit until they pay off a little bit of the loan. But now, this is going to be a problem. I hope you do not find yourself in that problem down the road. And lastly, be prepared for things to be slow on the repair side. That has to do with the supply chain issues, with parts availability. That has to also do with mechanics just not being that available. Shops are very busy, people are keeping their cars, and they're kind of becoming to a point of desperation. Be prepared for long wait times, for parts unavailability, for potentially, if you have a catalytic converter theft, it could be months before you get one. So that is, when you go into a repair shop, knowing this, knowing that there could be delays, you can arrange your life accordingly and you wouldn't be caught by surprise. And that mentality of now, I'm going to wait, please get it done quickly, I got to go. This is not a good attitude to have these days, because folks, everybody in the repair industry is really trying their best to get the cars in, get them fixed, get them out so they can get paid. You can get your car back and everybody's happy. But that is not working out very well like that. So be patient with my brethrens in the automotive repair industry world, and trust me, they are equally as affected as you are by this whole mess. Folks, I hope this video is helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.